Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon everyone. Today we want to do a presentation about journal towards a big data framework for analyzing social media content. Before that, we want to introduce ourselves. My name is Fadilli, Adinda Putri, Arbi Abdullah Saleh, Imam El Hafiz, Maizarfan Fajri, Reyhan Akbar Putra Permana, dan Surya Mulya Hermawan. And materi number 1 by Imam El Hafiz.
Introduction. Social media companies became popular with the advent of the internet in the late 90s. In those early days, users expressed their feelings about the products they bought or the services they use commonly through blogs, web chats, in dedicated forums, or via email to the provider. As e-commerce continued evolving, enterprises such as Amazon and IMDb included for every item: CDs, books, DVDs, movies, TV series, and etc. Since then, these services have evolved in many ways to offer users more sophisticated methods to enrich the review experience. Some of the add-ons that now came along with the review text are number of stars on a given scale, number of votes, popularity, number of reviews, image to illustrate or support the argument, kind of service provided, or an overall rating of the services or product provider. Many of the features mentioned above have been integrated into services by digital companies such as TripAdvisor, Airbnb, Amazon, Yelp, Cabify, BlaBlaCar, Foursquare, and Booking.com. These features generate giant volumes of information that are commonly referred to as big data. There is petabytes and even exabytes of data that are being generated by these types of enterprise. Companies and institutions across the world are gaining valuable insight into the massive amount of the information they have by applying tools and techniques of big data that called big data analysis, and consists of a set of algorithms, advanced statistics, and applied analytics. Big data analytics refers to the techniques utilized to examine and process big data so that hidden underlying patterns are revealed, relationships are identified, and other insights concerning the application context under investigations are exposed. Modern companies need to have new strategies to handle huge volumes of information and find the hidden knowledge in this data. Several frameworks and methodologies have been proposed to tackle this challenge.
Second, background of the research studies. Social media is today becoming the focus of many research studies, mostly because it reaches most of the world's population. Many people have access to mobile devices and are also users of social media services. Social media has the data necessary to analyze these situations: likes, states, text, images, and etc. These sections represents the theoretical background of the techniques proposed to analyze this data as well as the opportunities in this era. 2.1 Machine Learning in Social Media Tourism. Artificial intelligence or AI and machine learning are literally changing everything. It is expected that the 21st century will witness the explosion of all their potential in every aspect of human life. The tourism industry is not an exception since it also needs AI and machine learning to enhance its business models. Early studies with Hong Kong-related datasets, they first analyzed the behavior of outbound tourism to find the destinations that Hong Kong travelers most prefer. In a second-day study, they analyzed how to integrate electronic word of mouth in the tourism sector by applying advanced data mining techniques. They identified the characteristics of sharers and browsers, pointing out the underlying features that induce an internet user to rate and share their experiences of past travelers, which could help tourism managers to identify potential customers for strategical decision taking. An important research study revealed that the characteristics of the datasets that have been used in many studies, namely TripAdvisor, Expedia, and Yelp, can vary significantly according to the provider, mostly because those of datasets contain insubstantial differences according to a variety of features such as the popularity of the platform, the users for each one of these platforms, and the size of the hotels that are commonly rated on each of these sites. The research analyzes the information in these three data sources to study the differences between them, concluding that future work should explore relationships between review content and sentiment. The aforementioned studies show some of the research carried out until now in machine learning for tourism, whose results have provided important contributions to computer science, as well as to other domains. The framework in this paper proposes to build an MLM able to analyze text data and to reuse this model at a later time by applying most of it in a big data architecture. 2.2 Big Data in Social Media Tourism. At the very start of choosing a destination, today's tourist looks for tips through reviews in platforms such as TripAdvisor or Yelp. When looking for a flight, users can search in engines like Kaya or Skyscanner. During the visit, tourists post pictures and comment in social networks such as Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. After the stay, the tourist continues to write reviews and grade the services used during the trip, such as those of the hotel, restaurants, and transportation. All these actions create a vast amount of information every day, which many times goes unnoticed for CEOs, which could put the company at a disadvantage with its competitors. As previously stated, this modern age amount of information is known as big data, and many companies are taking competitive advantage of it. As such, modern tourism companies are applying BDA-related techniques to get hidden insights into their data or to better know the likes and dislikes of users. Existing studies have found that by taking advantage of BDA infrastructure, core stakeholders can have real-time knowledge on tourists, on-site behavior at tourism destination. BDA can also be helpful in the tourism industry to predict the volumes of tourists arriving to a certain location. The study analyzes the words that users query in browsers searching for a specific location. Based on this result, they forecast what the demand for tourist services would be for the coming season. Accordingly, Big Data and BDA are a set of techniques that, if applied effectively to contribute to the objectives of the company, can produce results able to help the organization obtain competitive improvements or substantial gains. 2.3 Big Data Frameworks. There is a growing interest about data management frameworks, as modern companies are not only interested in collecting digital data and having it stored without further exploitation, but are now interested in how they can translate their data into significant results. An example of these frameworks is the one by Fajri and Chongwatpon in 2017, where the authors proposed a framework for a local food festival in Thailand. The Big Data Framework proposed by Habib, Chang, Batul, and Ying in 2016 has as its main purpose the big data reduction at the customer end. In short, the aforementioned Big Data Framework doesn't consider the integration of machine learning and NLP for data analysis. The research framework presented by Yuanshu, Qian, and Li in 2016 considers tourist information crawled from travel blogs. The authors then implement the frequent pattern mining method to identify a city's popular locations by creating word vectors to construct a word network. They proved that their convolution tree kernel classification model outperforms other machine learning methods for sentiment classification, but they do not consider how to integrate these techniques into a big data environment. 2.4 Conclusion of the state of the art. AI research based on specific algorithms provide a review of previous approaches stating that in general that they are restricted to a single source and propose a set of methodological challenges. On other hand, big data approaches apply NLP techniques for identification of key attributes but do not include machine learning approaches or a framework to be applied. To the best of our knowledge, a framework for integrating natural language processing, machine learning, and big data techniques for social media content in a methodological way and not restricted to specific algorithms or domains has not been found in the literature review.
Data Integration and Big Data Analytic Framework. This section presents the conceptual aspect of the proposed framework. The framework is composed of two stages. First, a data integration stage and a big data analysis stage. First stage, it proposes a series of phases that represents the sequence of data from the data entry to building a machine learning model. The purpose of this stage is to analyze data that could be either big or small data. We can see the overview from the first stage on the picture on the right side. Phase 1. Data entry. The data entry to the framework comes from text data source, which is unstructured data. The data can be data from social media sources like blogs, chat, or microblogging service. Example like user review and tweet. Phase 2. Information retrieval phase. It involves carrying out the necessary measures to collect relevant data. Companies amass the information to develop broad research studies, in example from customer reviews or sensor data. This process must ensure that collecting irrelevant data is avoided to reduce the cost by using the computational and storage burden of the data centers. The data collection can be done by using the application programming interface provided by social networking sites like YouTube, Flickr, or Amazon. Phase 3. Data preparation phase. At this point, the sets of information that are already gathered must be cleaned and prepared for the further analysis. An activity in this phase is the detection of outliers, which is the values that are not uniform with respect to the rest of the data. For example, when working with numerical values, this should normally within a range that satisfies the condition of the study. The output of this phase is the information in a state of having homogeneous structure and a series of values in a data that suit the objective of the study, as well as not having outliers in the present data. Phase 4. Structure and modeling phase. The purpose of this phase is to obtain the structure of these volumes of information by establishing a data model that defines their inner relation and content. This data model will serve as a base to apply technique of analysis that allow a deeper understanding of the data. The output of this phase is to gain knowledge about data, which is their nature, their inner structure, the set of values for each field, and the possible relation between data objects. Phase 5. Machine Learning and Natural Language Processing Phase. This phase proposes that machine learning joined with the natural language processing technique will work better for analysis of the unstructured text data that obtained at the data preparation phase. The machine learning is revolutionizing every aspect in many areas of science, from image recognition to autonomous vehicles. The natural language processing is an area of computer science that analyzes the natural language. It can help humans to communicate with computer as they do with other humans. The output of this phase is a method that integrates machine learning algorithms and natural language processing package to perform data analysis. Phase 6. Machine Learning Model. The output of this phase is a method that combines machine learning and natural language process technique that focus on text data analysis. This method will constitute the basis of the machine learning model. This model has the following consideration. First, the model can be applied to perform data analysis on the existing data to get the insights of the data, like user likes, dislike, feature extraction, or sentiment analysis. Second, the model is intended to be executed on a non-big data architecture, meaning that small data could be analyzed without having high performance resources to perform this task. 3. This model will be the basis to the machine learning phase in the second stage, since this involves the big data analysis. Therefore, the machine learning model could be fully or partly applied to the analysis of the big data.
The second stage. As stated previously, BD is a very current trend in science, technology and innovation. Through the analysis of large volume of data, it is possible to extract key information that otherwise would not have been obtained by normal means. Leading companies in IT such as Google, Amazon, and Facebook are examples where they do the teamwork of research dedicated to BD analysis. Strategic results can be achieved that can be determined factor in establish a competitive advantage. In the first layer, distribute file system layer. The distributed file system or DFS layer is involved in defining a BD architecture. In ASUS, Benjelloun 8 and Belfix 2017, the authors proposed a series of BD products and services. Upon examining the proposal, it was determined that one of these technologies could be integrated into this layer. Spark of framework is proposed as the core of in the layer, due to the fact that it will provide the next phase with the necessary service to perform a data analysis in upper layers. Spark is a BD processing framework that has been used in many research studies, not only for text analysis but for many other scientific and business applications. It also should be noted that cold computing solution could be a part of this layer. In the second layer, there are cluster resource manager layer. If previous DFS is implemented locally, a cluster resource manager or CRM is required to manage the execution of the task distributed among the nodes. A cluster is a collection of computers connected in a network working together to execute several tasks in parallel. The cluster allows many computers to be connected, using all their processing power to solve a problem, as well as ensuring fault tolerance since nodes with malfunction can easily be replaced by the others. Therefore, it is suggested that a cluster be used increase in computer power. Some BD techniques are created to perform a parallel and distributed computing. A cluster of computers is organized by a central node called resource manager, which is an activity orchestrator that executes jobs and monitors nodes, performance, and operations. If the cluster is to be implemented in local computing infrastructure, a Apache method is proposed. At the layer 3, there are data access layer. The data access layer will determine how to manage the access to data being loaded to nodes at the later time. Regarding the inner structure of data, it is managed by the BD system, also supporting a set of languages to access data, such as Python, Java, R, or NoSQL. The output of this layer are the data in the FS internal format, which will be analyzed by BD technique in the next year. And the fourth is data analysis layer. In this layer where the most of BD analysis is being conducted. Thus, the research proposed to apply the ML techniques available in many BD systems to perform such analysis. One of the framework proposals was conduct the data analysis of large volume of text information in a non-BD environment to create an M.S.M. This model is now expected to be useful in this layer by integrating it into a BD analysis, thus having a different ML library. This approach, however, has a limitation. So far, the special care must be taken when selecting the ML algorithm to be used. Since the ML algorithm in the selecting BD system might be not support the algorithm in the MLM of the first stage. Since the data BD system technology is constantly growing, many ML algorithms for the BD like execution are still in development stage. To tackle this problem, each node can use single node learning library. Moreover, inside this layer, there is an NLP module to perform future analysis of text data when required. Layer 5, visualization layer. The previous layer produces as output a series of values representing a behavior that is being measured, which is usually defined at the beginning of the study. To represent these values, it will be necessary to use visualization techniques that allow data analysis on a large scale in a more comprehensive way. Data visualization is a series of techniques for better understanding of information and extracting knowledge from it. It also uses a presentation tools for the purpose of illustration, explanation, and a communication of the result. Visual analytic technique provides stakeholders with the powerful elements for decision making, since this layer is involved with crafting state-of-the-art chart that allow quick understanding of huge volume of information in an intuitive and flexible manner by visualizing and interacting with data. The output of this layer is a series of methods developed for dynamic visualization of large volume of text in information.
And now I'm gonna explain about result. Here we got 6 points to explain about. The first one is data and methods. The second is information retrieval. The third one is data preparation. The fourth is structure and modeling. Fifth, machine learning and natural language processing. And the last one is machine learning model. Explain about data and methods. Most companies deny the access to their data by external research due to privacy issues. Other state-of-the-art approaches try to take the public available information by means of web scraping techniques. However, the right to process the data obtained by this means from social websites are not clear. Yelp Corporation published a dataset for academic purpose. Yelp is a multinational that develops Yelp.com and Yelp application, which publish review about local business as well as the Yelp online reservation service. The Yelp dataset has been used in many research studies and therefore it is generally accepted by the computer science community. To explore the content of the Yelp dataset, it was necessary to build a script to read and fix the content files, since they did not comply with the GSON definition. After having read the content of the files, it was determined to export this to a relational database for better data analysis. Machine learning can be done in languages like Python or R. Because of prior experience, it was decided to use Python as the programming language, but nevertheless, the use of R as a second platform for machine learning programming is encouraged. Packages such as NLTK, Natural Language Toolkit, and Pandas were used for the NLP tasks and data preprocessing. Finally, precision and recall analysis will be applied in order to analyze the result obtained. Next is information retrieval. At this stage, data can be collected in different ways. The main goal of this step is to take the data and make it available for further processing. Building a web crawler is a common practice to collect data. A crawler can get a public data available and store it in order to be processed. In the next steps, other way is using datasets published for academic purposes. Yelp dataset was chosen to conduct the study. Yelp dataset is greater than 2 GB, being one of the bigger ones available for research purposes, and it also contains natural language comments related to a 1 to 5 scale valuation. Third one is data preparation. In this phase, the content of the GSON files of the Yelp dataset was analyzed, which consists of 5 files: review, business, user, tip, and check-in. As mentioned before, these files were exported to a database. However, this step is merely optional since many organizations can find that due to their day-to-day operations. This is not a drawback since the GSON data reading techniques can easily do this task. The picture shown is figure 3, which is related with the next point, structure and modeling. The structure and modeling phase was comprised of analyzing the existing tables. Then the relations shown in the entity relation model of figure 3 were discovered. Several relations between the entities of the model could be established. With this information in hand, a substantial understanding of the data was achieved. For example, it was found that the review and tip tables are more related to other tables in the ER model, and a review registry doesn't point directly to a certain category, but rather is related to a business unit, which in turn is related to many categories through the categories field. The categories field is user described, meaning that user indicate what the business services are. Therefore, a hotel can be related along with other categories, for example, casinos, tour, bar, etc. A relational database was created in MySQL according to this structure in order to process the dataset as well as to refine and retrieve the data related to each record, like text reviews and number of stars. Next is machine learning and natural language processing. As previously stated, our goal was to study reviews related to tourism services, specifically hotels. Thus, to distinguish which reviews were related to hotels, a subsample of reviews was taken by relating this table to business in SQL language. Then, from this subsample, only the stars and text fields were considered for the ML page. These fields are of major importance since they reflect how the user rates services in both quantitative and qualitative aspects. As noted, for the ML phase, it was necessary to have the information of reviews in a file. However, this data needed additional cleaning since there were many elements encountered in web forms, like blanks and nulls. This data cleansing was done by executing a SQL instruction. After running preliminary models on the data, it was discovered that the distribution of samples was biased towards reviews having 1 or 4 to 5 stars, making those with 2 and 3 stars at the least present samples. Such biasing was causing the M.L.M to focus more on the edges and less in the center, and so it was decided to choose a balanced sample of reviews. The last one is machine learning model. The first aspect to consider in the model was word factorizer, which transforms words into vectors to apply to the data, having count factorizer and TF-LDF factorizer as the main choices. Both were tested, finding that the latter performed better for data. The next step was how to set up the TF-LDF factorizer. The first is data was stamped via the tokenizer to use text in its root form. The second, terms that appear in more than 50% of the documents. The third is the maximum number of features to be considered are 30,000. And the last one is n-grams were considered in the range from 1 to 2. There were two reasons to consider 30,000 as the maximum number. The first one is the raw number of features was above 100,000, leading to low performance and prediction of the ML classifier. The second one is because it was the most optimal value that fit the data. This consideration is the factorizers and prior data pre-processing help to avoid overfitting. The Python Tokenize method is based on the snowball stammer from an LTK library, which lower cases each string and translate each word to its root form. It contributes to decrease the corpus size, focusing on finding the most common terms in the text. The classifier used for the test were multi-layer perceptron, support vector classifier, logistic regression, linear support vector classification, etc. As mentioned above, several combinations of data were used during the test. Initially, it was considered to train classifier with a multi-class classification for the 5 stars available. However, the result in accuracy were around 57%, and it was then decided to reduce the number of classes. Next, 1 star was chosen for negative, 2, 3, and 4 stars for neutral, and 5 stars for positive, leading to an accuracy of 73%. Finally, after considering previous research where the authors have used datasets for binary classification, it was decided to perform 2 tests using 1 and 2 stars for the negative class, 3, 4, 5 for the positive class, or 1, 2, 3 stars for the negative class and 4 and 5 for the positive class, with the result improving for the first combination of data.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon everyone. My name is Arbi. The first one is machine learning model. The result that the best classifies for the text categorization were MLP, SVC, and LR. However, the algorithm, as can be seen in figure 5, reviewed rated 1 star have a neutral sentiment score slightly skewed towards negative. As rating increases, so does sentiment score. This figure also allows us to analyze the information for the qualitative aspects, since it could be interpreted as users that rated 1 star have a rather neutral sentiment towards the business unit. In regard to binary classification, Figure 6 shows the distribution of sentiment score for 1 and 5 stars. This figure also allows us to process data for quantitative aspects. The representation of class 1, 1 and 2 stars is very similar to the representation of class 1 in figure 5, indicating based on word weight how similar the reviews for 1 and 2 classes can be. Then, for class 5, to determine the main words that customers express in their reviews, the second question, the TF-IDF coefficient of features were explored using the logistic regression classifier, which is presented in figure 7. This result shows the main words that users express concerning services. In this figure, 0 represents. The result shows that by using the methodology proposed in the first stage of the framework, interesting insight can be obtained from unstructured heterogeneous data. Results obtained by the framework were able to process information both qualitative and quantitative. By integrating different elements, this paper has proven that companies and organizations can use ML to find hidden patterns in data that will allow them to gain competitive advantages to outperform competitors. The next subchapter is framework discussion. The proposed framework follows a series of 2 stages divided into several phases from data analysis from BSD. The first stage can be done in a non-BD environment, and the proposed framework highlights that a conceptual model must be created before analysis. The MLM constructed in the first stage is intended to serve as a base for the BD analysis expected to occur in stage 2. This is because the 2 stages have the same purpose: to analyze a set of supervised data in different environments. The first one is there. Thus, the main theoretical implication of this research regarding tourism domain can be summarized in 2 main aspects. First of all, although other related frameworks could be found in the literature, they are usually linked to a unique technique to solve a particular problem, or they are more complex. The internal structure of the framework is bigger. Therefore, in this case, the novelty resides in 2 fundamental aspects. Number 1, the process to accelerate the delivery of results have been simplified, so there are fewer stages than in other related frameworks. And 2, the techniques to solve analysis problems could be improved or even replaced in future research in order to improve the. In this practical side, companies in the tourism sector that have quantitative or qualitative data could take advantage of the data analysis features proposed in this research. Finally, one of the most interesting practical implications lies on the fact that the proposed framework performs the data analysis in 2 stages, so that companies or organizations, before deciding to mount or contract a big data architecture for the second stage, can carry.
And the last one, conclusion. The Industry 4.0 is generating more data than ever before in the history of humanity. High-level techniques to store, manage, analyzing, and visualize data are being connected. Create, however, the wide spectrum of possibilities to connect a study or research using such as a variety of elements make it difficult to choose a great development. How to achieve the best result in the short time, having a clear goal of what the expected results are is the most important aspect to consider before conducting study at this level, the framework is proposed to serve as a bridge between data analysis and the technology. Okay guys, thank you so much for the attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.